All right, so I'm going to go through this quickly, but this is a tutorial on how to calculate means and standard deviation in Apple numbers, how to graph the means and standard deviation in Apple numbers, and how to calculate t-values when doing a t-test for a data set, for two data sets. So I got my raw data in here, I got my before and my after, just random numbers to show you how to do this. So you should be using a data set when you go through this. So I'm going to go ahead and copy these titles over. Oops, sorry, hit the wrong buttons when moving over to the Mac. I'm going to make a column here for mean and another for standard deviation. And in this column, I want to add, I want to put in the average. So one thing that I could do is go to function and average, and actually I need to change that. I don't know why it automatically does that, but we've got average, and then I'm going to select all that data and hit enter, and it gives me 6.2. And then a trick is to make this crosshairs, grab it with your mouse, press down on the mouse, hold down, scoot over to the right, and you've got your average for the next set. And just to double check, if you click on that cell, the blue cells show you the data that it used to compute the average. We're going to do the same thing for standard deviation, although it's a little harder to find standard deviation. So what I do is click on the cell that it's going to go into, up here into the function bar, type in equal stdev, parentheses, and select the data, close the parentheses, hit enter, and then I'm going to drag across again. So I got my two standard deviations there. And if you notice, those are pretty small numbers for standard deviations, especially compared to the mean. So it looks like the data is really close to each other, and if you eyeball the actual raw data, it does look pretty close. One thing to notice is that all my raw data are whole numbers. My values here for mean and standard deviation go to 1 decimal place. And if in case they don't, or you need more decimal places, you can hit this little button right here to increase the number of decimal places if you want it to. But I'll tell you, the rule of thumb is that if that for any statistical analysis to do, you go one more decimal place than the raw data. So I've got no decimal places for raw data, so I add 1 decimal place for my statistical data. All right, so now I got my means and my standard deviation onto graphing. So I'm going to select these 6 cells, go to charts right here. I want a simple bar graph, so I'm going to select that one right there, and here's my chart. Now this is something that we can actually drag up here so it's sitting with our data. I'm going to select this mean down here, delete it in my chart. I'm going to put in a nice descriptive title, but I'll let you figure out what that's going to be. So I'm going to put a sample title right here. I want you to actually put something in there. If you click on chart over here, we got show title. I deleted the legend. You could close the gap between the bars if you wanted. Make them wider. 100 looks fine to me. And then if I click on axis, I can choose different options. I want to show the axis for the y-axis. I want to show my chart borders to make it very clear. I want a title. You got to have a title. So I'm going to put in what my data represents. So heartbeats per minute. All right. And let's see if there's anything else I need to put. Nope. So then we do the same thing for my x-axis. I want a title. So this is going to be time relative to exercise. So before or after exercise. Okay. Let's see what else we need. If you ever lose this and it looks like that, click back on the graph, and you've got it. All right, and then to add the standard deviation bars, you go to series, and in advanced, it probably looks like this. click on the little arrow here for advanced, and go to error bars, and it has none as the default. Well, we want them, so you want actually positive and negative, so click on positive and negative. We don't want fixed values. We want custom. So click on custom. And then what we're going to do, we're having a little bit of an issue here. I don't know what's going on. I was having this issue earlier. I think it's my computer because I did some research and it didn't seem like this would be a problem. But what you're going to do for the positive values is actually select those two things. And they should fit right in there. Let me minimize this real quick. I don't know what's going on. If I go to Inspector, Custom, let's do back to fixed value. Anyways, you're going to want to put in a 1.92.3 for positive. You just select those two cells, and same thing for negative, and these error bars will change, and you're all set. So I'm going to skip that section for now. I don't know what's going on there. So I'm going to show you how to do a t-test very, very quickly. So to do a t-test, I'm going to pick a cell way out here, and then in the function bar, I'm going to type in equals t-test, parentheses, pick my first data set, put a comma after it, pick my second data set, pick a comma after it. I'm going to put in 2 for a two-tailed test. If you don't know what that means, ask me. Please ask me. And then we're going to also put in a 2 after that. It stands for equal variance. We're going to close the parentheses and hit enter. And here's our t value. So I'm going to put this as my I'm going to label this as my calculated t value. And then what you need to do is compare that to the table value of the t-test. So you're going to need to know what your degrees of freedom are. So you got to calculate that. And then follow along over to the 0.05 column, or 95% confidence level, to see how this value compares to that one. And use your book as a reference, but you're going to need to know by heart how the calculated t value needs to compare to the other one. And again, this graph isn't right right now because these standard deviation bars don't represent what they're supposed to, of 1.9 and 2.3. Okay, so I hope that gives you a little know-how of how to do this in Apple numbers.
Done?
I'm trying to figure out how to close this.